Okay, hello everybody and welcome to the latest Sage CRM webinar, Codeless Customization that makes you look like a genius. My name is Michael Kennedy and I'm delighted to be joined today by Jeff Richards, who I'm sure many of you know. And Jeff will be doing all the hard work today, I'm glad to say. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing fine, thank you, Michael. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Great, great. Okay, so before I pass over to Jeff, I just want to spend a few minutes going through a few things. So firstly, please note that all attendees are actually muted just to prevent excessive background noise and things like that. But you can ask a question. I'd actually ask people for this webinar, please, to just email myself, michael.kennedy@sage.com. Just drop me a quick email and explain what your question is, and then I'll ask Jeff directly. So we're going to do it a slightly different way today. So what I'll do is, just before I hand over to Jeff, it's just to actually note one or two quick things. So I just want to make sure that everybody is fully registered for our sagecrm.com ecosystem. And what I mean by fully registered, I mean that you can register as a user, okay? But then also there is a higher level which all Sage business partners are entitled to for free. And it's very important that you actually just do that initial step that takes a couple of minutes. You can see here the key step is step 4 there. So basically you can email the Sage CRM team at sage.com. That means you get access to the partner section of our ecosystem, okay? So on that there's loads of great stuff. There's loads of technical training, there's sales enablement, there's blogs from all the teams. If you have any technical questions, you can actually get them answered by some of our developers and some of our support people and things like that. So all in all, there's a lot of really great stuff in there, so please do register for that as soon as possible, okay? But I know sometimes not everybody's registered for that, so you're kind of missing out if you don't. One last thing then is also just we have a number of different kind of social media tools in use here, and I'd ask you just to note them, and please follow us on Facebook or alternatively on Twitter, and also we have our own YouTube channel which has a lot of kind of great videos on it as well. So please just kind of link in or follow us on these various different channels, because this is where you get a lot of great links to content and updates and things like that, so you know what's happening. So before I pass over to Jeff, just please remember just to email myself, michael.kennedy@sage.com. Drop me a quick email, and I will then pass that email or pass that question over to Jeff, who's going to kick off now.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining me on this webinar. I do hope that it's going to show you how you can customize Sage CRM codelessly and make yourself look a genius to your customers. And what we want to do here is to go through a number of different approaches, which will all need to take advantage of the fact that Sage CRM is based on this idea that we provide definitions for our application inside CRM itself. So it's a metadata or repository-driven system, and it means that zero code, it really is an easy way in which most customizations and business rules can be implemented within inside our corporate system. We're going to look at a number of different ideas. We're going to look at the idea in which we can set boundaries. We're going to discuss the concepts of things like translations and themes and being able to change coaching captions, and looking at ways in which we can bring all prompts according to particular business rules, and we'll look at the way in which we can carry out very simple customizations with inside by adding fields to screens to be able to not only add fields to screens, but to be able to create new screens or to create new listings in new places using features such as Rum Block as well. We'll go on and look at a lot of the control of the interface that a user has, and we'll discuss the way in which the system administrator can shape CRM without any code by changing the way in which tab groups behave, menus and buttons behave, and we'll also look at the way in which we can bring those ideas into the interactive dashboard, which is the new feature in version 7. And we'll end by discussing as well some of the very simple workflow behavior that we can take advantage of. Well, that's going to be the topics that we're looking at. If you have any questions while we're talking, please do send them to Michael, who is monitoring, and it's michael.kennedy@sage.com. And as those go in, he will be able to nudge me and bring those to my attention.
I will wave my hands and my arms vigorously, Jeff.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over now and do most of my talking through the use of the interface that we have here. So I'm going to spend most of my time working with the interface. And I'm going to start off by considering the idea of a user. And I'm going to log on as a UK sales user who is called Matthew Ebden. So I'm going to log on as Matthew Ebden, and tell you what, I'll even get his name right. It's Ebden M is the username and password. Now what I'm using here is the example demo data. So I've logged on as Matthew Ebden. What we can see is that he has a menu on the left-hand side, and you'll notice within inside this menu item that he doesn't have access to the marketing area, though he does access to reports. But you'll also notice that he is not able to create new reports. He can't create new report categories, neither can he edit existing reports or create new reports. So there is something about his setup which means that he is limited in the actions that he can carry out. We can also see as well, if we go into the find screen, is that he can certainly find and seek for a range of different information across the system. So he can look for company information, person information, opportunity, and so on. So he can find and use the information from 732 companies. But you'll notice as well that if you go into the new menu that he is not able to create certain things. So although he could look for cases, he can't actually create a new case. So he can go in to perhaps look at one of his companies. If I look for a company called 3G Homes, we can see that Matthew Ebden is the account manager for this company. But if we then look at cases, we can see all the cases, the customer care issues that are associated with that company, but you'll notice that Matthew Ebden doesn't have the ability to log a new case, but he does have the ability to create new sales opportunities for this customer as well. So this is interesting that he can have the rights to do certain things, and this is having an effect over the buttons and the options that are available to him on the screen. This is our first thing to consider, the idea that boundaries can be set which change the application itself. So if I log on as the system administrator, and I go into the administration area and I go in to look at users, we can start to see this if we look underneath the security area. So you can see I've come into administration, user security, and I'm looking at an area called the security profiles. Now inside here, you'll see all of the principal entities of the system. Now I should also point out to you that although this is only showing 6 entities, in fact if you added new entities into the system like project or event, and you used a feature of the system called the Advanced Customization Manager, you would be able to add in new entities into the system. So it's an extendable part of the system. But for simplicity's sake, I'm only thinking here of the core entities that we have. But there we have our entities, and you can see we have rights which are called the dive rights, because you can either delete, view, insert, and edit, or delete, insert, view, and edit, which is dive. We have our sales rep profile, and Matthew Ebden corresponds to that, and we can see that Matthew Ebden, as one of the salespeople, have the rights to be able to carry out certain actions. Can't delete anything, you'll notice, and can't insert new cases, though can, certainly within their own territory, insert new communications, companies, leads, opportunities, and persons. If you don't have the rights to do something, you don't get the button to do it. And that's even going to affect if we then went on to change his rights, so that we actually removed his rights to be able to view cases. So here, I'm just going to take away the ability to view cases. I'm going to change save, and now if I log off as a system administrator and log on as Matthew Ebden again, what we'll see is that suddenly the Cases tab disappears from the main menu in the My CRM area, and also we'll see that there is no Find button anymore for cases in the Find area. So literally he can't have any reference to that area. It's completely closed off to him. So that is a really fundamental way in which we can set boundaries of usage within inside CRM. Now, I want to come back. I do actually want to provide poor Matthew Ebden with the rights to work with those, because I want to develop the idea of being able to not just view cases, but when we can see things as well. I want to be a bit more subtle about the types of boundaries that we can set. One other thing that we might want to do, though, is if we can see cases, it might be customers, the particular organization that we're working with is particularly sensitive about the rights to do things. If we consider a company screen, you'll see that there's a field here called the service level agreement field, and it might be that we only want certain departments or teams to actually have the right to be able to change the service level agreement. I can do that as a system administrator. I can come into administration, customization, and I can look at the company area, and I can come to find that particular field. And you can see that there I'm looking at the SLA field, the service level agreement field, and you'll see there is a button on the right-hand side of the screen, which is actually called the field security button. So for the service level agreement, I'm going to click on the field security, and we can see that we can change the read and write access rights to this. Now, these are universal, as in they will affect the entire system, not just in the individual screens, but they would also affect wherever these fields are used, so they could be inside reports as well. So I'm going to, for my field, create a new right, and I'm going to say that the team of customer service will have the right to be able to edit the field. So we'll have right access, and everyone will have that removed, and the only people who will have it will be customer service. This has an immediate effect. I can go and look now as the system administrator on that screen, and you can see even the system administrator won't be able to change the value of the service level agreement field. Only somebody who is, say, a support manager or a support member of staff like Kylie Ward can come along and access the information for the company. So if I go and find a company like, let's go in and look for a company called 3G Homes, which of course we've been working with. If I go here and I click on change, you can see that because Kylie Ward is a member of the support team, she can go and change the information that she needs to. But the other teams are restricted from that. And we saw that there's not only just a question of read-write, but you can, not only a question of write, but you can also hide a field completely as well from people. So this is the idea of setting the boundaries. The boundaries are also set because members of staff can belong to different territories. And we can see at the moment that Kylie Ward can actually look across the entire set of data, reading information that is arranged in a hierarchical fashion. If I go off and look for company information, you'll see that she can see 1,204, 2003 companies in store. But compare that with Matthew Ebden, and I log on as Matthew Ebden again, and he can go and search for companies, but here you see 732 companies. So it's a much restricted set of information. So there are lots of ways in which we can set boundaries of who can see what information and use and change what information without any code being used inside the system. Now that idea is developed still further, the idea of this in lots of different ways. So Matthew Ebden, for example, that I'm logged on as, you can see that here this is data that belongs to Matthew Ebden. So he's the account manager, and you can see it's very clearly in his territory. Now, generally, the idea is that you can see things that are in your territory, and you should be able to access it. Now, if I happen to look for somewhere another salesperson's information, like Peter Johnson, if I go off and have a look at one of his bits of information, like a Cancher, what we'll see is that I can see the main company information, but you'll notice that there's lots of no entry signs which are blocking out. And this is a feature that is another way of control for the user. This is something that we can see as a codeless way of control if we go and log off from Matthew Ebden's interface and log on as the system administrator. Now I'm going across as a system administrator into the user area. Not everything is set through the security area. Some things are focused very much on the users, and I want to have a look at the individual rights for Matthew Ebden. We can see that Matthew Ebden in here, if I open this up, this is where we can confirm his membership of a particular security profile, but you'll notice that there's a certain amount of sensitive information. This is the reason why these settings in here determine why he got those no entry signs when he was trying to look at the information for his colleague's company, Acantia. If you go and test that with the demo system, you'll see that in operation. And you'll also see that he could be given individual access to solutions as well, and other items that change his rights to access data. But you also see that, importantly, he has no admin rights, and there are this concept of 3 levels of user right changes a lot of permissions inside CRM. If he was promoted to be an info manager, and somebody like Kylie Ward is an info manager, or Susan May is an info manager, then users like that, like Susan May, actually can go along and they can set up and work with marketing information. You can see access to the marketing area. They can also go into reports and to be able to create new reports and to be able to create new report categories and edit existing reports. If we come out of thinking about the individual users' rights and their experience of those rights, there's something else that we can think of that affects security and the control of the interface. Back inside here as a system administrator, if we go and look underneath email and documents and look at the documents and reports configuration area, we'll also see that we can control codelessly whether or not certain behavior is available to all users or should be limited only to info managers. And so you can see here, for example, the ability to export information from groups, and search screens should be limited to info managers and above, or email behavior should only be available for info managers and above. Okay, so that's those ideas are our other things, other rights which are associated with the info manager level, or whether somebody is classed as an info manager. What I'll do is I will leave those topics for now, because there's actually, we can spend too much time looking at that. But I've spent here the bulk of the presentation thinking about this codeless way we can set the boundaries for a system, because it's so important to get the fundamentals right, get the security right, decide the policies that you have, and you'll find a lot of the interface within Sage CRM is dynamically changed according to those. But it's not just the system administrator who decides how the system looks. We have to understand that the user themselves has enormous rights to be able to make changes.
So, Jeff, Michael here again. So just before you continue there, Jeff, just had a question in here. So can you explain the difference between info manager and administrator level rights?
Yeah, absolutely. And the info manager is a sort of a super user. I'll illustrate it by looking at a user who is Susan May. She is the classic info manager. She's a sales manager. That's the idea of this. What she can do is she has the ability to go in and set up, if she needed to, items within inside a marketing campaign. This is a complete area that is locked down to only those people who are info managers and above. She can also go into reports, and as I said, she can create new report categories. She can also go through and she can edit existing reports as well as creating new reports. There are other things which are a little bit more subtle as well. For example, if she was looking for company information, what she could do is to say, I want to find all companies that are active customers in Boston, for example. And we could go and find all those active customers that are in Boston, and tell you what we can do is we can then save that search, and I could create that search so it's an available search for all users as well. So I can say these are active customers in Boston. Things like that can only, these types of saving items like that are only available if you are an info manager or above. Now, that's probably easier to understand that separates an info manager from a standard user, but the boundaries between an info manager and a system administrator can be a little bit blurred, because if I go into the admin area, what I can do is I can go in and, as an administrator, I can allocate more rights to an individual user like Susan May. So if I go in and find May, and I go in and change this, I can allocate to her certain rights as well. You can see here she's an info manager, and you'll notice that there are additional admin rights that can be allocated. So if I wanted to give her rights over, for example, the ability to upload documents or upload library items, or to be able to upload and work with things like the uploading of data, then you can see that I can provide data rights and document library rights, and I can choose Save. And now if I log off as a system administrator and go in as Susan May, we can see that Susan May now has an admin tab, an admin button. Click on here and you can see that she can start to go in and work with data administration, and where she can upload data and she can start to set up information about the relationships as well.
Great, Jeff. And just staying on the info manager for a moment, can an information manager amend language translations?
Not fully. They can be given certain customization rights to be able to, for their own language, to be able to change the prompts that they're working with. They're not universal. It's only a system administrator and above who have rights to all of the languages and therefore can change it across the entire system.
Okay, great.
And I'll touch on that in a little bit as well, but because it's starting to get to the point about how much is in the control of the individual user as well. And this is what I wanted to start to mention now. If I log on as Matthew Ebden and we go across into the Preferences tab, we can see that Matthew Ebden has an enormous amount of control over how they experience CRM, everything from what their initial starting screen should be to their defaults in what they look for, the way in which they search and display for information like opportunities, including the number of rows that are returned, their default email address that they should use. And that obviously depends on what has been set up. But interestingly, they can also decide which theme should be used. Now, I'm going to switch from the classic theme I'm going to switch to the classic theme from the Sage default. And if I log back on again, what we'll see is that you end up with an interface which is very much like the old 6.2 interface. Now, the reason Well, hello, and that was a little bit of a gap while we sorted out the little audio problem that we were having. Hopefully, we're able to recover from that, and you've borne with us for that. Well, I want to continue with this, looking at the idea of changing and controlling the screen captions. We saw that with the fact that our inline coaching, inline customization means that we can just go in and find the translation that we want to change. Now, the development of that is that if we look as a user at any parts of the screen, we can see we have information at the top of the screen. This is called the coaching caption, and any of the system screens, and in fact any customer screens that we add into CRM can have a coaching caption associated with it, and we can change them in any way that we like. If I edit a screen, for example, I could find myself working with a find screen that I have added lots and lots of different custom fields to, that I would like to be able to explain how to make changes to that. I would like to add more information in here, or even perhaps embed a video link which shows how to use that functionality. And to do that, it's really straightforward. If I go into administration again, and this time I'm going to unclick the inline translation mode and click in for the inline coaching captions, and you'll see that I can jump across, find a screen, and edit the coaching captions text. Now, the type of thing that we can put in here is really any HTML that we might need. And here I'm going to go off and I'm going to do a YouTube search, and I'm going to look for, let's have a look at YouTube, and go off and look at my Bob and Buddy video. Okay, so there's a Bob and Buddy. He's a businessman. So I'm going to stop Bob and Buddy chatting there. Instead, I want to be able to provide a link to him inside my coaching caption. So I'm going to add in here a little href to that, and I'll say that there's a target which will be new, so it's a pop-up window, and then I'll say Bob and Buddy as the text that I wanted to use. So I've just put in a link, any HTML that I can use. I choose Save. There's a Bob and Buddy link in here. If I confirm that behavior by going into administration, changing the inline coaching captions to turn it off, and then back onto here, there's our Bob and Buddy hyperlink that if I click on, it opens up, and we get Bob and Buddy. And now Michael stepped out of the room for a moment. I can say that Bob, in fact, is modeled on Michael. I did that. Right, he just stepped out of the room, but he's back in here, and unfortunately I can't say anything nasty about him anymore. Instead, we'll switch back he'll switch back as the system administrator into here, because I want to develop the idea of customization and changing this dramatically to look at the idea of really changing the customization of a table, of a field, of a screen. And if we go into customization and look at our company, I can add in a new field into the system very, very easily. So I might want to add in a credit check field, and I'm going to put this in as a date field. So credit check date, and I want to put the entry type to be a date. Now that will take care. CRM looks after the whole question about how it's going to be stored in the database, and I can just concentrate on saying that this is the credit check date, and I can choose Save. And once I've done that, I can then go into a screen and I can ask for that field to be displayed on the screen. Now, how do I know which screen I could jump across into the main interface, and you can see now I've got this inline customization option. So if I click on Customize Screen, now I'm free to go and find the field that I want to add into the screen, add it into the screen, choose Save, and it's added in. Now, I'm just going to remove that inline customization from the screen and drop back in. So this is what any user would see, and if they click on Change, you can see there's the credit check date that can now be added in to the system. Well, I've chosen the date, it's displayed and it's stored in the system and it's displayed on the screen. But I might want to display other information elsewhere, and I can do that by going into customization again and using this idea of the top content. All of the principal entities inside CRM have a top content screen. It means that you're able to add in any information that you might like the account manager information, directly to the top of the screen. And of course, if you're doing much more obvious when a user enters the screen, so they can, if any user enters a particular company, they can see straight away who is the account manager for that particular field, and for some reason that didn't display the account manager. That's going to it's managed not to display the account manager. Oh, I think I managed to display the wrong information in here. I've drawn that from the wrong table. I'm sorry about that. That should be company account manager. There we are. As hopefully my colleague will be able to edit that out of the recorded presentation that gets put up onto the website. So there we are. That should be a company account manager and not.
Sorry, it seems to be pulling out again. So just open up the screen there. This bit here. I'm going to change it to the. Sorry, just going to change it to the voice. So just sorry.
Welcome to GoToWebinar, web events made easy.
Well, there we are. Hopefully you can hear me again. We've just switched the way in which we are working with the audio, switched away from the telephone system onto the VoIP. So hopefully the internet carrier is going to be a lot better than the telecom carrier. Okay, just bear with me just for a second. I'm just making sure that everything was plugged back in where we had been fiddling with the equipment. Well, I've talked then about the idea of inline customization, and now actually this is all displaying correctly. So I look at a company, we can see that the company is managed by John Finch. So this is a very nice feature. I can bring any of the information up from the entity below up into the top content. That's just another example of how we can make changes to bring data that we need anywhere onto the screens. Now it gets a little bit more exciting than that, because we can now say, well, I know that there's information held in the system which is not terribly easy to get to normally. Let's look at the idea of quotations. If I go into a company like Gatecom, I know that there are quotations for Gatecom, but there's no way of seeing that there are quotations for Gatecom unless I go into opportunities and then drill down into the opportunity and then drill down into the quotes. It would be much nicer, I think, if I could be at the level of the company to have a tab which I could click on, which would just show me the quotes that were associated with that particular company. Now, that's not a difficult thing to do. We're going to use a technique here called Rum Block, which is a codeless way of bringing screens and information into new locations within inside CRM. It's not quite as simple as I'm making out, but I'm going to rely on the fact that I can go into opportunity, and I can use that there's a list here which is using a view. So there's a list here called opportunity list. If we customize it, what we'll find is that it has a name and it's based on a view. I happen to know that it's based on a particular view called opportunity, sort of quote opportunity. So this particular view joins on to the company information. So I know that there is a way of linking the company to the quote. And I can go, therefore, to the customization for my company or organization. And I can go to the tabs, and I can alter the tab group. The tabs are the horizontal menus that run along the top. And what I can do is I can just say I want to display now quotes. And I'll use Rum Block as the action, and I'll say I want to use this opportunity list that has been built in metadata. So it's just like a screen. Now we've been fiddling with the screens. I've been able to edit and change the opportunity list in any way that I want, and I add that in here, and I move that up next to my opportunities. So I can choose Save, and now any user should be able to go into the system, like Susan May, be able to navigate to a company like Gatecom, and to be able to look at quotes. And what we see is a list of all the quotations for that particular company. So you can see that's a very nice way of being able to search for all of the quotes within inside our system. Okay, that's linked it and tied it in, so I haven't had to go into each opportunity one at a time. So that's a very powerful way of doing it, but I might not want the quotes to appear there. I might have wanted that, in fact, quotes should appear as a button on the main screen. Or I might want another behavior. For example, I may want to add in the ability to immediately send a letter. At the moment it's not difficult to send a letter to a company. I just right mouse click and say new document. But there are 2 clicks if I do that. I might want to reduce it to a single click for a user. I can do that by going into administration. I don't go into administration. I'm logged on as Susan May, not as the system administrator. So let's go on as the system administrator and go in to change this by going into administration. Go into our advanced customization into an area called button groups. I'm going to create a new button group, and this button group is going to be called company summary buttons, and it's based on the system action for the company summary. What we mean by system actions are all the actions that are called from the tab groups themselves. So I'm associating this wherever the company summary is used. And I can edit this to now link and access the behavior that I want. So the caption here that I want to call is going to be the quotes. And this is the Rum Block behavior that we were using earlier, and that's the quotes list that I might want. So there's a quotes list, and I can add that in place. And another thing that I can add in if I wanted to is I could say that I want to send letter. And I can say that this is going to be a system action, so it's going to be other. The system action is going to be send letter. The system action is called send letter, and in here I can add that. I can choose an image that I might want. So let's call this a new document. All these images are things that you can add into your install. I just make my quotes in here, and I'll have a look at that. Let's have a look at list. I think a very nice little image there. Update that and choose save. So this should have had an immediate effect. If I look at my company, and I can see there I've got a quote button and I've got a send letter button. If I click on my quote button, you can see the quotes, and if I go back to the summary page and I look at send a letter, and you can see I've saved a click by now being able to drive my mail merge from a single click rather than 2 clicks. So this is all under your control as the system administrator. You can change the interface by changing the tabs and changing the menus that you want. And it gets even better because much of it can be passed not to the control of the system administrator like this, but it can be under the control of the actual user themselves. But before I talk, let me just check with Michael how we're doing for time. How are we doing for time? We have 20 minutes, which is acres of time as far as I'm concerned. That's a splendid amount, and I'm going to look at now as a user at how a user can bring in information that is of interest to them. We have 13 minutes left. Oh, very good. Okay, so I'll speed this up. I just want to go in as Susan May. Do you remember when I went into Susan May, I was able to create underneath the company, underneath the organization, it should be, I created a saved search which is active customers in Boston. Now that's a saved search. I can use any saved search that I create both within inside the find area but also inside, say, advanced finds as well. So it can be any sophisticated thing to be able to go in and allow me to change my interactive dashboard. Now you can see I've got a template dashboard that has been set up for this user, but a user who has been given the rights can create for themselves a new dashboard. So I create a new dashboard and I'm going to call this Susan's. And I'm going to call this my dashboard. And I'm going to choose OK. And what I'll do is, this is system administrators and info managers can create new gadgets which they can share with their colleagues. I don't want to use any of the library gadgets here. What I want to do is modify my dashboard by adding a new gadget for myself, which is going to be a list gadget. I'm using list gadgets for companies, and what I want to say is I want to use one of the data sources that are available to me. Data sources for interactive dashboard gadgets can be of 4 types: reports, saved searches, and what isn't displayed here, dynamic groups and advanced finds. But I've got the ability to go into my active customers in Boston to say what I want. Let's have here just the phone number, company name and the phone number, and I want to be able to quickly go to that list, and perhaps I may want to be able to say immediately send them an email or set a task, for example. And I may even, if I have workflow, I may even want to be able to say that there's workflow that I can carry out. So I'm going to say that these are active customers in Boston, and now I have a dashboard block that any user, like Susan May or in fact Matthew Ebden, would be able to create based on their own searching for information. So you can see that it's not just a system administrator who can change and shape CRM in any way that they want. The user has a huge amount of autonomy to be able to get the system displaying the data that is important to them and being able to drive their processes, their workflow in the way that they want. So you can see here I'm immediately creating a new task. Okay. Well, that's given a hint as to how CRM can simplify processes. There are other ways in which a system administrator can start to simplify processes as well. If I go into administration, and I consider here the idea of what's called notifications. If we go to customization and we look at the opportunities, we can see that there is a tab here called notifications. This allows us to put alerts into place when something has happened inside the system, and it can either go out as an email or as an on-screen notification, and I'll do this as an on-screen notification. What I'm interested in is when sales are agreed, and I want to be able to look for when the opportunity stage has been set to be equal to sale agreed. And I would like a message to go out to the owner of the particular company that the sale has been agreed for. So there's the company account manager. Now you can put any message that you like. So you could hard code some HTML in here. So let's have new alert, sale agreed, and in here we can also drop in data from the system. So there's the opportunity description. So there's the opportunity description, sale agreed, and I can then choose save. Now this is having an immediate effect. You can see the rule is enabled. It doesn't display anything for me as a system administrator. I have no sales that have been agreed. But if I log on as another user like Brian Little, who's a North American salesperson, he can log on and immediately he's got notifications appearing that sales have been agreed for any of the accounts where he is the manager for that particular company. So you can see here, if we go to the company, there he is, Brian Little, and the sale has been agreed. Okay. Now, that's one type of workflow which is very much focused on changes happening within the context of time, but process-driven, where a user is driving things, can also affect entities like the company. And if I log on as a system administrator, I can make a change by going into the administration area. I can go at advanced customization and I can look at workflow, and I can create a new workflow for the company area. Now, company workflow is one of the entities which is controlled by an area called configuration, escalation, workflow and escalation configuration. So before I go any further in that, I should remember to go into here, workflow and escalation configuration, and just say that yes, I do want to allow workflow for companies. This extra task is only necessary for these 6 entities. If you have built a custom entity and you're wanting to workflow it, then it's not something that you're going to have to do. It's automatically available for custom entities. But back here we go into advanced customization, into the workflow for our company workflow, and I'm going to add the idea that there are a couple of states that the company can find itself in. It's either going to be active or it's going to be inactive. So let's say this, or it's going to be closed. So let's have another state which is going to be closed. So it's not going to be open for new business. So I'm going to say that we go in and create a new rule, and this is going to be set active customer, and it's based on the company and it's transitional, and I'll give it a nice, I'll use the little image here called forward, as to allow me to have a little image for this, and I'm going to enable this rule, choose save, and I'm going to set some actions for this. The actions that I'm going to add in will be to set column values to be setting the column value for the field status, so that this is set to be active, and I want this to be read-only, and I will also add in set column value where the type is then set to be customer as well, and I say that that's going to be read-only as well. I can also make this available for cloning. Now, you can see that all this I've done so far has not involved any code whatsoever. And I just drag that down in here, I drag that down, drag active down into here, and I create another new rule. This is going to be cloning the set active customer, and I want this to be, say, set closed customer, and I will enable this rule as well. If I edit this rule, what we'll find is that I can edit this to say that the set the column value for the status is going to be set to be closed. Okay, so I've now changed my behavior in the way that I want, and I can bring down my set closed customer, bring down closed down to here, and if I want to be pedantic as well, I can bring active down to I can bring set active customer down as well, just so that I can reset any closed customer back to being active. Okay, I can activate this workflow now. It's a very simple linear workflow. It can be a lot more complex than this, and it can involve code, but that's the change that I want to implement. And if I go into the main menu and I go and have a look at this, and let's prove this by jumping out, not as system administrator, but jumping out as a user like Matthew Ebden. And I managed to make a mistake there. Let's have Ebden M. I log on. I can go off to a company like 3G Homes, and we can see that there is a set active customer action available to me that I can set. And we can see that it's setting the behavior, and we can see that that's set to be now an active customer. I can set that to be closed, and I can then choose that, and you can see it's going to be closed customer, and change that. So I can control information that I could lock down in my other means. Okay, well, there I've covered quite a range of topics that we set out to cover in today's session. Let's see, are there any questions as we come to the end?
Jeff, thanks very much for that. So basically, if anybody does have any further questions, we're actually at a time now. What we can do is we can follow up with people offline. There's been a couple of queries about will the webinar be recorded. So yes, we have recorded the webinar, and I'm hopeful that that will also include the anything that Jeff said when the sound dropped out there. But what we do is we will email everybody that was on the webinar today with information of where to download that from and where to access it from on the ecosystem. So you'll be able to fully view the webinar again at a time that's convenient to you. And I just want to thank everybody for attending today. And I'm just going to pass over to Jeff again for just to give him the last word. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, that's great, everyone. Thank you very much, and do make sure that you are spending some time on the community site where you can see lots of articles appearing about how you can codelessly customize CRM and make yourself look a genius with your customers. So thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.